Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Enter the Ring Live with your hosts, Mighty Mike and
AJ Rage.
And we are currently awaiting Eric the Red to join us, checking in from the Pacific Northwest. Happy Tuesday, July 6th, 2 days after Independence Day. Happy Independence Day.
Yeah, Independence Day.
Albeit 2 days late.
Yeah, no. So I was looking at our intro thing on there. It looked like everything went pretty good, except for the very, very end, because I always have to be careful to shut off the volume on the live one that comes up. Because if not, then we start getting, it sounds like DJ doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And we got a little bit of a blockage, but hey, I rated out of 10, I rated an 8. So we're almost out of 10.
Anyway, so how was the 4th of July? Did you guys have a lot of fireworks in your area?
No, fireworks are actually illegal over here in Chino Hills.
But they were still were people still shooting them off though?
No, on the DL, we went and got a couple that we could find because all the stands were empty, which is weird because it didn't seem like anybody was on the streets. It was like dead everywhere.
I know.
And Gigi ended up getting these two, like whatever, like these, the things go up in the air.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking they're going to be really shitty, even though they were like $70 for the two. I was like, wow, that was expensive. I like the first one. I put it on my driveway. This thing goes off, and I'm like, holy shit, I should have put this thing in the street. This thing was shooting out everywhere, dude. But yeah, it was pretty cool, though. We didn't, like I said, we were going to take the kids out to, we used to always go to Pomona College to go watch the big event out there. It was really nice. But they, of course, because of COVID, they canceled all, everything that was good. And then my dogs, the Pit, the Red Nose, Montana, the baby dragon, she can handle it. Gator was about to have a heart attack. Every firework that went off, he looked like he was hyperventilating, so we had to stay home with him.
Oh,
how was yours?
Yeah. Quiet. Quiet. Matter of fact, I don't think I stayed up late enough to even see any fireworks. I heard something going off in the distance, but nothing crazy. Everything coming from the west. Everything coming from the west, man. The west part of the San Gabriel Valley was it always goes off there.
Nope.
It's like Disneyland.
Exactly.
Anyways, let's kind of uneventful weekend, I guess. There was one card, that Showtime card that took place from the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson. We can get into that a little bit. I know we want to talk about the fight tonight. Tonight here, early morning here, tomorrow in Newcastle, Australia, Tim Tszyu's fighting.
I know you finally. Looks like this fight's finally going to happen, huh?
Well, this is his second opponent, Michael Zarafa. God, what a clown! Michael Zarafa should just retire right now.
Well, honestly, Eric made that statement about not just about the injuries that are happening in boxing, but the fact that it seems like lately fighters are taking these liberties where they're just pulling out of these fights, not with the whole COVID thing, it's
just another built-in excuse.
Exactly. And it's really sad because, you got to look at the expense, which a lot about, behind training and getting ready for a fight. You kind of put your life on hold and you got to do a lot of things and arrange a lot of things in your life. But when you got a guy like what happened to George Kambosos and now what happened to Tim Tszyu, but like what happened to Munguia too, but now Tim Tszyu, he's going through with this fight with this Sparks kid. I don't know much about him, but I heard some pretty straightforward statements. And I was going to ask you, do you think there's some type of animosity between the Tszyus and Jeff Fenech?
No, not necessarily. No. Jeff Fenech was bad-mouthing Michael Zarafa, basically telling him, mate, you let the whole country down. You let everybody down by pulling out of this fight. Jeff Fenech has a good relationship with Tim Tszyu. He's always kind of had like a hot and cold, lukewarm relationship with his father because, let's face it, when Jeff Fenech was kind of exiting the game, Costa was coming in. In fact, if you remember the rematch of Azuma Nelson versus Jeff Fenech all those years ago, the one that took place in Sydney, that was Costa Tszyu's pro debut. Yeah. So either way, Costa Tszyu surpassed anything Jeff Fenech did in the ring. Jeff Fenech was a great multi-division champion, but Costa Tszyu really was, in my opinion, well, not even just my opinion, he is. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's the best fighter to ever come out of Australia, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think he goes down as one of the greatest 140 pounders by far. You know
ever,
what I'm saying?
Ever.
If I go back to it, and if I look at people that fought around that division and stuff, there's not too many people you could really pull out. Maybe Aaron Pryor. Aaron Pryor was what he was. You know what I'm saying? I mean, his wars of Alexis Arguello. I mean, it would be Pryor and Tszyu would probably be the two top guys, I think.
It's crazy, the similarities between Aaron Pryor, Sugar Ray Leonard, and then Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Because if you remember this, Pryor never got his hands on Leonard, and I don't know back then, if you talk to historians back then or people that knew what was going on back then, they felt that Leonard decided to avoid that 140-pound division and just
he jumped it and went right after. Yeah.
Kind of like what Floyd did when Floyd jumped from 135 to 147. Didn't really fight anybody significant at 140 because he didn't want to have anything to do with Costa Tszyu. Either way, that's a great division. Now going back to the Tim Tszyu, Stevie Sparks, this kid Stevie Sparks, apparently he's moving up in weight. His last fight, I think, was at welterweight. So he's not a natural 147 pounder, but if you saw the weigh-in today, I saw it earlier today, he looked good. I mean, he weighed in at a career high 153 point whatever pounds, just a few, maybe about 6 pounds heavier than his last fight. So it isn't like the kid's jumping up like a Kell Brook and going from 147 all the way to 160 to fight Gennady. Yes, he's going to be outmanned. The kid they say he does have a punch. He's got 11 knockouts and 12 wins. My only thing for Stevie Sparks is you got to give the kid credit for stepping up and saving the show, so to speak. But at the same time, was this the right move for his career? If he goes out there and Tim Tszyu puts a beating on him or sparks him out of there, no pun intended, what does that do for his career? Does he go back down to his natural weight and say, hey, I took a chance? But we all know what happened to Kell Brook. He was kind of never the same when he came back, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah,
Roy Jones was never the same when he went to remember Roy Jones when he went to heavyweight and then came back down and fought Tarver at light heavyweight. He was never the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this kid Sparks, I mean, obviously moving up in weight, he looks like he held the weight fine.
He's in good shape. He's not flabby or not. No, he's in good shape.
No. I mean, he's equally about the same size as Tim Tszyu, but the difference is, like I said, he's not used to this division. Power sometimes doesn't translate even with a few pounds. So we're going to find out. He may have been very successful at a lighter weight, but it doesn't mean it's going to work. And especially against a technician like Tim Tszyu. Like I said, I give the kid a lot of props for just stepping in and saving the show in a sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's really a situation where, even if he loses this fight, I don't think it's going to be frowned upon too badly because they're going to say, hey, he was a late substitute. He stepped up against a quality guy in Tim Tszyu.
And Tim Tszyu, okay, so going back on Michael Zarafa, this is a fight that Zarafa had been clamoring for the last 2 or 3 years. He was chasing Tim Tszyu around like an ex-girlfriend. And that's what Tim Tszyu was actually quoted saying, that he's like an ex-girlfriend. He just can't keep my name out of his mouth. Everywhere I go, I turn around, he pops up. I mean, he was famously there when Jeff Horn when Tim Tszyu beat Jeff Horn. He was there in the crowd and, initially started with congratulatory remarks, and then it evolved into, why don't you fight me? Why are you fighting this? It's just, I knew from the moment they had not the initial press conference, but from the moment they did the press conference to announce the venue, that Newcastle venue where they renamed it Zoo Castle for the fight, just temporarily, something changed in Michael Zarafa. All of a sudden, all the bravado and everything went out the door. He all of a sudden became very subdued, and right away people started questioning it. You can go back a month ago and start reading the comments from some other videos, the no limit promotions and stuff. People were saying, does this guy want this fight now? Man, all of a sudden he looks very subdued because he understands now this is real. Then about 12 days ago, they did a sit down interview. I don't know if you saw it. It was on on whatever the Australian, it was like Main Event Sports or something like that. Either way, they were sitting, across from each other, almost like the face-off thing that they do here in the States. But they were both dressed in nice suits, and it was more of a formal interview. But he started making references back to when Tszyu, when Tim's dad lost to Ricky Hatton. And Tim did not take kindly to that.
I heard about
and
that.
Very uncharacteristically kind of lost his cool a little bit. And from that moment on, it was no more Mr. Nice Guy. Whenever Tim Tszyu weighs in, whenever it's like fight week, his demeanor changes even more serious than before, almost to the point where it was a little uncomfortable. I was watching the weigh-in and some of the comments and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, like Tim, please don't hurt this kid, but I understand though, it's the hurt business. He's only going in there for one thing, and that's to take him out.
Yeah.
And but I understand though. I mean, that's part of the mental game that has to be played in boxing. You can't go in there, smiling and jovial. I mean, this is a fight. And like I said, I firmly believe that Tszyu's gonna walk through this kid. I just hope the kid, I mean, if he does get stopped, I just hope it's nothing vicious or nothing, because Tim Tszyu is getting bigger and stronger and hitting harder with every
Yeah.
fight. So,
I agree. I actually went back and watched Sparks' fight against Jack Brubaker, who's a common
Brubaker.
opponent, between the two of them and stuff. I understand they say this kid has power. I didn't see it in the Brubaker fight. He's very hittable. Brubaker's kind of one of those like step forward kind of fighters and stuff. I mean, where Tszyu kind of blasted out Brubaker was one of his earlier successes and stuff, which really kind of like opened the door when Tszyu started coming on to the scene.
mm-hmm.
Brubaker's a naturally big guy. I believe this was another situation where I don't know what the weight was, where maybe Sparks was stepping up in weight again to take on this guy Brubaker, because Brubaker.
The fight was at 147.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like I said, I mean, you can never count anybody out. You never know. I mean, go back and look at, what's happened to so many fighters, guys like Josh Warrington. Look what happened to him. He had no idea that this kid out of Tijuana was going to come in here and do what he did. You don't know until the day of the fight. I'm sure that Tszyu is concentrated on what he needs to do, not overlooking Sparks, because understand there's always that element. When a guy's got 11 knockouts and 12 victories, I don't care if it's 11 tomato cans, he's still knocked out those 11 tomato cans.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. So, oh, by the way, and most people probably already know this, but ESPN Plus did pick that fight up late, so you can watch that on ESPN Plus tonight. I want to say it starts at about 2 a.m. Is it 2 a.m. East?
Probably.
No.
To be safe, I would be on there by I'm going to get on there probably about 1:30 tonight, just kind of get things set up, because Eric says he might call in. We might do a live thing. Obviously, we can't.
2 a.m., right? Yeah.
We can't preview the show because that's against, regulations and stuff. But I mean, we could talk and give a play-by-play, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have ESPN Plus, but at least we'll be able to give them some audio and some play-by-play.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So we'll probably plan on doing that. But anything else you want to say about that fight, about the Tszyu Sparks fight? I mean, honestly,
there's a lot I want to talk about with the Tszyu fight, but I want to kind of go back a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about Colbert's fight.
Okay.
What happened? And then I want to revisit the Tszyu situation before we go out, because, not just talking about this upcoming fight with, him taking this fight with Sparks, but what the future looks like for Tszyu. Because right now it looks like things are starting to heat up a little bit at 154. You got some question marks on some fighters with guys like Jared Hurd and a few others. You got guys out there like Jamal Charlo, who looks like he's starting to find his rhythm. And
Erickson Lubin's coming off a big win.
You got Lubin, you got Brian Castano, who's getting ready to do what he's going to do. So I mean, there's going to be a big shift in power after the Castano Jamel Charlo fight. One of them is going to step up to the top spot, and then the other guy is going to be kind of in that spot where he's still considered formidable, but he's vulnerable. So we're going to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, true.
So
you want to talk about the Chris Colbert fight? Let's talk about that fight a little bit. I mean, that fight took place this past Saturday in Carson, California. As we all know, King Tug was another late substitute. I believe it was supposed to be Yuriorkis Gamboa, right? He, about 2 weeks prior to the fight, an injury forced him to pull out of the fight. King Tug, who doesn't normally fight at that weight, stepped up. I think I had texted you about a round in, and I immediately noticed it. I said, King Tug is not big enough for this weight.
Yeah.
He is not big enough for this weight. You could see the dramatic. I mean, they were comparable in height, but you could just see the thickness in which Colbert carried the weight. He was just physically just too big for King Tug. Nothing King Tug was going to do was going to phase Colbert.
No.
And overall, I mean, Chris Colbert got the job done. The crowd didn't necessarily appreciate what they saw. I believe most of the crowd there were cheering against Colbert and cheering for the Mongolian King Tug. I personally would have preferred to see Colbert really go out and put on a show and really try to take the fight to this guy and take him out. I mean, he boxed beautifully. He had a great jab going. That jab was just a jackhammer all night. But you're fighting a naturally smaller guy that comes out. He's coming up from 126 to 130, and you're content with just getting a decision. At no point did I really see he put his foot on the gas and go, I'm going to get this guy out of there.
And I think there was a couple of reasons, bro. Honestly, he made a comment after the fight that King Tug hit hard. It was no mystery that King Tug he packs a punch. This fight kind of reminded me of when Zepeda fought against Hammer and Hank Lundy. where it was almost kind of like Chris Colbert. You knew at any moment he could have really put King Tug away, but the ring IQ, the cautionary aspect of it, told himself, why? I can just outbox this guy, win the fight. There's no reason to take that risk. I'm going to not make some fans tonight. I think Chris Colbert made the right decision because you never know. I mean, I understand he's still Chris Colbert. He's still a guy that's right in the mix. He's got amazing talent. You saw at some points it looked like he was playing. You know, he wasn't afraid, but he knew King Tug had problems, had power, and he didn't want to just make that mistake like what happened to the kid that just fought against Rosado. Here's a guy that goes inside there and he thinks he's just gonna, you know, do what he's do. And I want to talk about that later on. I noticed something in that fight. Back to Bully. I noticed something. I'll just say it real quick. I went back and I watched the Rosado fight, and Rosado completely foresaw Beck the Bully. Every time he came in with that right to the body, he came in head first. You saw Rosado step back and just wait for him and then land it. I mean, there was no mystery. It wasn't a lucky punch. It was no mystery. You can't compare that guy to a lot of other fighters. You know, he just got lucky, but
very, he was that Beck the Bully was reckless.
Well, that's because he's a kickboxer originally, karate guy, and they don't take a lot of shots to the face. So he's more concentrated to the body. So he's got to learn about this, you know.
Yeah.
Getting back to, like I said, like with Chris Colbert, you know, I think he did what he had to do. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, he didn't make some fans. You know, he could have probably tried to go for the knockout. But I think there's a part of him, he really respected him. And I like the words that he said afterwards, because we have so many fighters that are so disrespectful. You know, he embraced, you know, King Tug, and he told him, hey, look, you're not done. You're back at your weight. You're the man. You know, he is. I mean, King Tug showed some toughness, you know, going against a pedigree guy like Chris Colbert.
And I got to say this about King Tug, and I said this about a year ago on a show we did. I can't remember who the fighter was, but that Brian Pullman, that I think that's his name, from Pullman's Gym in LA. He's a younger guy. He's kind of, you know, around the same age as these younger trainers like Ben Davison and stuff. He's a good trainer, man. He knows the right things to say. He's quiet. You know what I mean? He's not boisterous. He's not getting out in front of his fighter. He's letting his fighter. He understands that I am the man behind the man. The fighters should get all the shine and all that, but he's very knowledgeable. He's a guy that's really learning the craft as far as a trainer, I think, in the right way. And I think that guy's got a bright future. He maybe doesn't have the big marquee names right at the moment, but I've seen him work some fights before where the advice that he's given in the corner and how he's working the corner are exactly what, I mean, to me, the advice he gives in the corner and the manner and the calmness in which he expresses it is top notch, as good as anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I expect big things out of him, and he knew they were up against it. He knew they had a big challenge, and he didn't, you know, oversell his man, but at the same time, he didn't sell Chris Colbert short. He's a good trainer, man. Good trainer.
I don't know if you saw King Tug's fight previously, that when he fought against Kobe Breedy. King Tug pretty much lost that fight, but it was the calmness. It was a straightforward, hey, look, this is where we are. Not a rah-rah cheer section. It's not about that. He was just giving him, he made sure that every time King Tug came back to the corner, that he gave him something to take back out. It wasn't just get some man swell on him, you're doing okay. No, he gave him some instruction. He kept him moving in the right direction, and King Tug kicked it out.
Yeah, that's the best way. Yeah, what you said right there. I was trying to convey that, but I screwed it up. But yeah, keep your fighter going in the right direction. It's like if you're an offensive coordinator and one thing's working, why would you go to something that's not working? So you're right. Play off the strengths of your fighter. But he did a great job, and
I mean, hats off to King Tug. Right? He did a great job. Chris Colbert is in that mix right now with those guys in the division. So he's a threat. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. I mean, you hear guys like, you know.
Now, he lost to Gary Russell, am I right?
Yeah, he did. King Tug lost a decision to Gary Russell, but he had his moments. You got to remember, this is a guy who was an Olympian. This is only his 13th pro fight. This is a guy who's been fast-tracked. You know, like a Lomachenko and some others and stuff, you know? So Chris Colbert, obviously a lot of people know about his past documentaries, how they featured him ever since he was an amateur. He's never changed. This isn't a fake persona like Teofimo Lopez, a lot of these other guys. This has always been Chris Colbert and how he's always been. I think people mistake confidence with his thinking he's narcissistic, and he's not a shit talker. He just says, hey, look, I'm going to beat you. You know,
I like the little segment they did prior to the fight where they were talking about him, his involvement with the youth football and stuff.
he does all that stuff.
That's a good thing. You know, trying to give back to the
And his
community.
chicken place. You heard about his chicken place?
Uh-uh.
He's got this chicken restaurant that it's called something chicken or something like this. And I guess the guys ate there. Dude, they say his place is amazing.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like,
well, he's doing the right thing then. He's doing the right thing with his money. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, exactly. So there was one other fight that was on that, and that was the Michael Rivera fight, which I don't know if you got a chance to catch.
Oh,
that fight.
The Domenico Michelle Rivera.
Yeah, Rivera went down early in the fight against
the Spaniard, right? Fernandez or something.
Fernandez, he's managed by Sergio Martinez, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So it was kind of eerie when they did the similarities between Rivera and Muhammad Ali, because you kind of saw it. I mean, he had this physical.
He looked like him, yeah.
Yeah. The kid's he's got talent, you know what I'm saying? But he's one of these guys that you feel just kind of go to sleep during a fight, and then all of a sudden he woke up, because at no point did he show he had that kind of power against Fernandez, and all of a sudden he just unleashes and knocks this guy cold.
And it was the perfectly placed punch too, because it wasn't the hardest punch I've ever seen, and I was actually kind of questioning. I'm like, did it land that? Because this guy, I mean, it hit him right here, like right not on the back of the head, but right around the right above the ear, and it was just a perfectly placed. And I don't know if it was by design or he just landed in the perfect place. But yeah, I mean, the fight was competitive up until that point. You know, I think he won more of the rounds, but on the scorecards it might have been closer because of the knockdown a few rounds earlier. But he looked pretty good. I mean, he looked pretty good.
I mean, I think he's another guy that's going to get thrusted in that 135-pound division and just cause more of a traffic jam, because let's be honest, he's a guy that you're going to kind of look at and go like, well, you know, he could box. You know, his defense was decent, and up to the point he got caught that one shot by Fernandez. But Fernandez is not no slouch. I mean, there's a reason why he's knockout. Yeah. There's a reason why he's being managed by Sergio Martinez. But that explosive knockout power that he did against Fernandez puts himself out there and kind of sends a message to the division. Hey guys, I'm here. So we just have another contender, you know, another guy that's joined the Kentucky Derby in this stocked race for the 135-pound title.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. You know, we'll see. And he's with PBC, right? He signed to PBC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe he is. So,
yeah,
you know, they definitely need to increase their, the amount of fighters they have in that division, because it seems like most of the guys at 135 are like either with Matchroom to Zone or Top Rank. So yeah, it's good for them to start developing some fighters in that weight, some young up and coming prospects, because that's going to be it is a hotbed division right now, but it's going to retain. It always is. Anything between 130 and 147, 100, maybe even 160 is always the hotbeds in boxing, which is why I want to talk about something towards the end of it, but this is just on a personal level. I want to talk a little bit about boxing and the numbers and whatnot. So, was there anything else on that Showtime card you want to talk about?
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, we can go and talk about the big event that's going to be coming up. Obviously, this week we got Jojo Diaz in action. We got Tszyu tonight, well, tomorrow actually in the morning. And we got the return of Zero Ramirez. So we got a lot to talk about and stuff like this. But did you want to touch on your thing right now, or do you want to go ahead and wait and talk about it later?
No, I was just going to talk about and this is totally off topic, but it was involving Claressa Shields, because, you know, Claressa Shields won her MMA debut a couple of weeks back. We didn't really talk too much about it, and I actually was rooting for Claressa Shields because I'm a boxing fan first. No matter if I like the fighter or not, I'm always going to root for the boxer. But either way, I saw something posted on social media about Claressa Shields. ESPN gave her an award for the best female fighter, and that's just female fighter. That doesn't just mean MMA. That just means best female fighter, and like their mid-year awards. And you best believe that if Claressa Shields would have never signed with the PFL, she would have never received those accolades from ESPN. ESPN had no vested interest in promoting Claressa Shields. Well, they have a contract with the PFL, the Professional Fighters League, whatever it's called, Professional Fight League. It's that MMA, or it's a smaller organization. It's not as big as UFC, but it seems to be doing pretty well. And they have a regular presence on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and all that stuff. But I started reading some of the comments, and some of the people were talking about her being the greatest boxer and this and that and this. And all you have to do is just throw a little bit of question that, even just for a little bit. And boy, did the attack hounds come out, because I posted something that's saying, well, she's got business to handle with boxing still. And if you look at Claressa Shields' weight division, right? And Mike Montero did a show on this several months back. for her division, for her weight category, I think there were only like 27 registered female fighters worldwide
Yeah, it's pretty
in that
bad.
division. There's nobody in that division, in those divisions.
Nobody.
So I started throwing names like, well, Amanda Serrano, um, Lucia Riker, and Wolf, and of course, most people who are Carissa Shields fans have
They
never
know
even
nothing
heard of
about
these
them.
fighters.
Yeah.
The best fighter, in my opinion, walking the face of the earth right now, as far as boxing,
Amanda
is
Serrano.
Amanda Serrano by far.
Absolutely.
6th division world champion, right? She'll fight anybody. She fights in a division with the toughest fighters from
The most dangerous
118
woman though of all time was Ann Wolf.
was Ann Wolf. Ann Wolf was so dangerous she couldn't even get fights. Okay,
She
now
couldn't
Ann,
get fights against men.
no. So what I wanted to touch on is like if you decrease your talent pool, it's like if you go to a tournament, if you're an amateur fighter and you go to a tournament and you're fighting at 120, 100, what is it, 132 pound is a very hotbed division, okay? In amateurs, 132. Okay, you fight at 132, you show up to an open tournament, there might be 15 other fighters there. Well, if you show up in the 105-pound division, there might be 3 other guys there. So what are your chances of medaling as opposed to the guy that's got 20 other guys in his division? It's obviously a lot easier. That's the situation with Clarissa Shields. She has two.
There's no participation trophy in the heavyweight division.
She has 2 knockouts, 2 stoppage wins in 11 of her wins. Right, right. Neither one of them by knockout. They're by referee stoppage, questionable stoppages. I don't believe she's ever even knocked anybody down. She doesn't possess power.
No.
Right away, and then I throw the name Savannah Marshall out there. Well, she's got business to handle in boxing. She should leave this MMA thing alone, because if she even has an inkling about getting in the ring with someone in the top in the UFC in that division, what's the girl's name? Amanda Nunez or anything like that, she'll get knocked out, sparked out in less than a round. I'm not kidding you. She'll get knocked out cold. And this doesn't give me pleasure to say this, because I'm always going to root for the boxing personality. Either way, when I said the name Savannah Marshall, I firmly believe Savannah Marshall, who's got 10 wins, no losses, 8 of them by knockout, she firmly will dismantle Clarissa Shields. She'll outbox her and knock her out, which is why Demetrius Alita, who's Clarissa Shields' promoter, along with Clarissa Shields, are completely ignoring the 7-figure offer that Eddie Hearn has proposed to them. He continues to up it. She's basically saying she doesn't want a career high payday. She would rather, and the PFL MMA thing is a built-in excuse. Isn't it ironic that when Savannah Marshall started coming on the scene, all of a sudden Clarissa Shields, well, you know what? I'm going to try my hand at MMA because there's nobody else to fight. What do you mean there's nobody else to fight? That's like Errol Spence saying, you know what, I'm not going to fight anymore in 147 because there's nobody there to fight. I'm going to go to 154. So what are you talking about? There's Manny Pacquiao. There's Keith Thurman. There's Terrence Crawford. There's, all these new 147 pounders. There's Josh Taylor coming up to 147. Chon Cepeda. It's ridiculous. So I know I kind of wanted a bit of a...
You're absolutely right, bro. And that's the problem is right now is that it's a really hard argument to win when you look at what Clarissa Shields is doing. I mean, I'm going to say this, and I agree. I remember John Molina said this one time, you know, when you're at this level, you're not afraid of anybody, but you know when something's not going to go your way. And if you know that the only thing that's keeping you relevant is your O, you don't want to lose that one thing. Her association with some of the people that she's been associated with shows a lot, and it branches off of her why she has this attitude. This is a woman who talks about, she can't knock her opponent down, but she's knocking men out in sparring, which is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? We all know it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's all nonsense. She's got no power. I would stick my chin out and let her hit me with everything she had, and it wouldn't faze me in the least bit. She does not possess power.
I saw this interview with Tim Bradley and Adrian Broner. And at first I liked what Tim Bradley was saying, because Tim Bradley was letting Adrian Broner know, I wish I had your skills. I'm hard on you, brother, because I think you got this. But look at the second part of the interview when Tim Bradley came back. One of the things that was said, Tim Bradley, Adrian Broner was like, you're the guy who makes excuses for everybody, though, man. You don't give me a break, but you continue to keep that crown on Terrence Crawford. And he's like, man, nobody wants to fight. He's like, what are you talking about? Nobody wants to fight Terrence. I'll fight Terrence. I know 10 guys that'll fight Terrence. Terrence don't want to fight them.
Yeah.
The argument's dead. Yeah. Terrence Crawford wanted this payday against Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, let's be honest. And I know we're kind of getting out of theme, but we'll get back. The reason why Terrence Crawford, and this is the reality check. The reason why Terrence Crawford did not get the lotto fight against Manny Pacquiao, and it was granted to Errol Spence, was one mere reason: credibility. Errol Spence comes in with a much higher ring resume and a much better public appeal. than Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford comes
True.
off narcissistic, self-centered, choosy, cherry picking whatever he's going to do, mediocre performances against mediocre opponents. Manny Pacquiao said, listen, I'm a person who's always going to dare to be great. So why not go after the guy they consider the king in Errol Spence? By far, the number one guy in the welterweight division, not Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford's yet to fight a legitimate welterweight, much less be rated number one. You know, that's like, you know, that doesn't make any sense. That's like winning a title in D2 football and you get grunted in the national championship. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You got to earn your ring. Terrence Crawford's not going to leave Top Rank because he knows exactly what you said. You nailed it on the head, bro. Al Heyman will make Terrence Crawford test the waters before he gives them anything. Nothing gets spoon-fed to the fighters in the PBC. ESPN will continue to do the bullshit they do. I think their association with Top Rank has hurt Top Rank. It may have made some fans, but it made the wrong ones.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, very well said. You can't be the man if you ain't fighting anybody, and that's what it comes down to. I mean, you talk about a fighter whose career limbo right now. I mean, he's in limbo. I mean, he fights about as often as Joe Joyce does, and it's like, I mean, I love Joe Joyce, but it's
Bradley
like,
said it too. Tim Bradley was like, "Oh, Joe Joyce got a fight coming up, by the way." Tim Bradley said he just wants to see T-Bud get back in the ring. Well, you're his buddy.
Pick up the phone and call him, man.
So it's already been pretty much said. We know who he's going to fight. His next fight's going to be against the novice, inexperienced Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz, because, you know, he looked suspect against, you know, a lighter hitting guy who happens to be a good friend of T-Bud and what's his name? That he just beat, not Easter, Maurice Hooker. Hooker.
Yeah.
It's already set up. This is a done deal. He's not going to go after Josh Taylor. He's not going to go after Keith Thurman. He's not even Danny Garcia. No, none of these guys. He's going to go after what he feels is easy pickings. You know, I don't feel that Virgil Ortiz is in the situation and the position to fight against an experienced guy. I look at it kind of like the Mayweather Canelo first meeting, where you got a guy that's coming up, he's got skill, but he's still unpolished. Terrence just might do enough to get by. Virgil does hold that equalization thing where, you know, he might land that big punch, because Terrence hasn't shown the greatest chin in the last few years. We'll see what happens. But once again, when are people going to turn back and look and go, dude, you're taking on a guy that's barely venturing into the welterweight division? Why not one of these guys that have been the gatekeepers have been waiting? What about Ugas, Thurman? I mean, I go down Sean Porter. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You know?
Yep. So anyways, I know we kind of digressed and kind of went on a little bit of a, we took a hard right. We're back on the center lane now.
It's something that bothers us. You know, it really does. Yeah. It continues to bother us because we don't see that, especially at Top Rank. I don't know what it is. Their fighters just do not, and I'm not going to say for all of them, they do not like to face the best. You know, PBC is always matching the best against the best.
And the one fighter that they do have that's willing to face the absolute best, they put little or no promotion into him, and that's Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's fought everybody at 140 pounds.
I think the problem with Josh Taylor, he just doesn't have that American appeal. Like
that's what I'm saying is that I mean they maybe if they put a little bit into the guy, I mean, what's not to love about the guy? Maybe but then again, maybe they figured, hey, you know what? Don't for a second don't think that Bob Arum and everybody involved with Top Rank was rooting against him in that fight. They wanted Ramirez to come out and show out and just win in dominating fashion, because boom, they got Ramirez versus whoever they want for the next couple fights. So
getting back, like I said, we got a big
let's talk about a little bit further about the card that's happening Friday, July 9th. That's actually Eric the Red's birthday, by the way.
Yes.
Friday, July 9th. Main event, Zurdo Ramirez versus Sullivan Barrera. I mean, this is Zurdo's first fight with Golden Boy. So they're putting a little bit of, not even a little bit, they're putting a lot of.
Weird. For some reason, I always thought Zurdo was with Golden Boy already. I don't know why.
Zurdo was with, I think he was with PBC, but he just wasn't fighting regularly. I don't know if the guy just was out of shape or what. I don't know what the deal is. He looks in good shape. I saw the media workout. He looked in pretty good shape. He looks like he's, you know, I mean, Sullivan Barrera, what do you say about the guy? The guy's fought everybody. You know what I mean? He's a gatekeeper at that division. So let's see how he does. I mean, if Zurdo goes out there and looks dominant, I mean, do you say, well, Barrera's best days are behind him? Or do you say, hey, we got a new player in the 175-pound division, you know? What do you say?
Yeah, I think the situation with Zurdo Ramirez is, once again, like you said, he's got that Ike Corte mentality. Just they just seem to pop up every once in a while and stuff. There was a lot of talk around him prior to the David Benavidez those days, and guys, Callum Smith and those guys coming in at 168 pounds, and then he just kind of disappeared. There was rumors of
Yeah.
him moving up to light heavyweight. Obviously, he hasn't fought since 2020, so it's been well over a year that he's been in the ring, coming back against a tough guy in Sullivan Barrera, very predictable guy, not an overly talented guy, but a guy who's upset some people that he shouldn't have. His fight against, I always go back to what he did against Joe Smith. I 100% thought Joe Smith was going to destroy him, and Joe
Yeah.
Smith went in and just threw a stinker. But now that
Yeah,
I'm looking
true.
back at it, maybe it wasn't Joe Smith that threw a stinker. Maybe it was just Sullivan Barrera had a different gear that we just weren't used to. Um,
Maybe. Yeah.
then he comes back. He lost that fight to Demetrius Bivol where it was competitive. You know what I'm saying? He lost that 10-round decision to Jesse Hart, and now he's thrusted in this. But this is a guy who's fought against nothing but quality people, whether he wins or he loses.
Yeah.
Now, we can't say the same for Zurdo Ramirez. Ramirez's last fight, obviously back in 2020, was against Alfonso Lopez in a fight in which he beats a guy, who actually stepped up in division. Before that, Tommy Karpinski, a guy who's been around for a while, but let's be honest, seen his better days. He did win
Jesse Hart.
Jesse Hart, but that was a debatable decision. A lot of people
Yeah.
felt Hart won that fight. Before that, I mean, we're talking about, Angulo. Then not that it's Alexis Angulo, it's a different guy. He really has not fought the level of competition of Sullivan Barrera. So if Sullivan Barrera has any chance, it's the fact he's fought better fighters possibly than Zurdo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've never really been overly impressed with Zurdo and what he does in there.
Me neither.
You
Me
know?
neither. Me neither. I mean, you said it well, bro. I mean, Barrera does have the experience against the better fighters, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a guy that's going to go in there. There's some fighters that you just feel just kind of go through the motions, and Barrera is one of those guys. He doesn't possess one part of his game that is considered excellent, but he's well-rounded, and he does show toughness. If you go back and watch the fight against Joe Smith Jr., Joe Smith's a guy who, once again, another guy who you tend to kind of like scratch your head in some of his performances.
Yeah.
But there was moments where he did things and you kind of look at yourself and go, dude, where was that earlier in the fight? He just like he wakes up,
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens.
I tell you what, I'm very excited for the co-main event on that card. I'm much more excited to watch
Yes.
Jojo Diaz against Fortuna Friday evening, and we may or may not be at that fight. I mean, Rene Moreno might be fighting on that card. I know the opponent's been selected. They're waiting for commission approval. They were supposed to have it hopefully by midday today. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet. I haven't received a phone call, but hopefully that fight does get approved, and then we'll be there on Friday to watch these fights. Very excited to see Jojo Diaz. I think it's no mystery here on this show. We like Jojo Diaz. We think he's good for boxing. We think he's a kid who's been under promoted. He's had a couple of personal issues, missing the weight by a pound here, a pound there. But either way, I think when push comes to shove, Jojo's a great little fighter, man, and still has a lot to accomplish at that division, 130 pounds, right? Or is this? Yeah, this fight's at 130, right?
I tell you, it's a mystery to me. I scratch my head. Somewhere on the road to success, I don't know, Jojo stepped on somebody's shoes that they just got shined or stole something. But this is a guy who was America's sweetheart during the amateurs in the Olympic days. Comes in, with a lot of things, and has done nothing but perform to the highest level. Yeah, his last bout wasn't stellar, but it was off pre-COVID situation where his training tactics had to change. I know he just had a child again recently, a bunch of stuff. And so it's not like he lost. I honestly went back and I've watched that fight about 3 times. Jojo won the fight.
They called it a draw, but Jojo won that fight.
Jojo won the fight. And if that was only a 50% Jojo Diaz, he's going to need to be 100% going up against the KG veteran and Javier Fortuna.
Yeah, Fortuna. Yeah, Fortuna is another guy that's got a lot of experience, and he's naturally been fighting at that weight, I believe, right?
Fortuna's a guy who's fought against guys. I mean, go back and look at the fight. He's fought against guys like Adrian Granados. We know where Granados is stepping in these days, and I know the fight ended in a no contest, but anybody was watching that fight, Javier Fortuna was handing him his ass. He beat the hot shot, the Lion Kid, Bulgari, Sharif. He's been in there with Quaylar. I mean, this is a guy who's fought Omar Douglas. You know, he handed him his first loss, which Omar Douglas was on that fast streak. He was Shakur Stevens before Shakur Stevens was Shakur Stevens. His only losses came to a tough Jason Sosa, who was streaking at the time, and then a split decision loss to Robert Easter Jr., went up to a higher division later on. So, I mean, you got to ask yourself, you know, this is a tough fight for Jojo Diaz to come back to, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm ready and prepared to see the best. I think Jojo Diaz is going to do a little bit of what Lomachenko did against Nakatani. He's going to show us a different level. He's going to say, you know what, you might have forgot about me. Shame on you because you shouldn't have.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Very well put. And like I said, I'm excited for that fight. That's with the exception of if our friend Renee gets his fight on Friday. If that fight comes through, I'll be most excited for that. But next to that, I'm definitely gonna.
Oh yeah, you know when Renee fights, we're like 16-year-old girls at a Backstreet Boys concert, dude. That's a whole nother story, you know.
Yeah, and then also on the card is a newly crowned champion, Senicia Estrada. She's fighting, defending her child. I think against a Japanese fighter. I don't know much about, but she's a good story. Senicia, you know, she's a local East LA product. You know, she's a good girl. Don't really care so much for her dad, trainer / whatever he is. He's a little bit, I don't know, but she seems like a good girl. And so let's hope that fight comes off, because that would be a nice Friday evening for us to be out there. It's gonna be a bitch to get out there, because remember the last time we went there, the parking and stuff out there is horrible.
Oh man, I think this time what we could do, I came up with the perfect plan, bro. We take your car, we park your car, and I take Colt, you know, the scooters, the motorized ones, and I ride you. We just ride that all the way down.
Either that or we get those little bird thingies.
Yeah.
We just park at Union Station and just what is it about 3-4 miles down to the
that's it.
Bank of California? I think that's our best bet. It's probably the safest bet. We don't have to worry about anybody breaking into our cars at Union Station, I don't think.
I felt more unsafe on the bus than I did on the street. So I mean, you know, that's a whole nother situation. But
oh yeah, dude, we got on that bus and got like 5 seconds in, I'm like, what the hell are we doing on this bus?
We are already in a fighting mood, you know, because I mean, our testosterone's up, you know, we're pumped because
a friend of ours is fighting.
Panchito, you know, for people that know, you know, Francisco de Vaca, Panchito, and he was unsuccessful against Emmanuel Navarrete. But I'll be honest with you, I mean, I know you didn't go back. I know you haven't watched that fight since. I've watched it several times. I'm gonna tell you something right now. I will stay to what I said. In the second round, Panchito hurt Navarrete to the body and came up to there was a moment there where it was, because you know how Panchito, like you said, when he was sparred, he's a fighter. You know, he had more power than he thought he did, but he was, you know, it just wasn't the right day. So shit happens.
Wrong game plan.
So also on that card is a young upcoming signed by Golden Boy and Hector Tanahara.
Yeah.
Going up against undefeated William Zepeda. It's going to be an interesting
No
matchup.
relation to Chon Zepeda.
No. I actually, I've seen a few of Tanahara's fights. You know, he's an impressive kid at 19 years old. His last fight against Juan Carlos Burgos, a guy who went the distance with Devin Haney, did what he had to do and stuff. You know, Burgos is always one of those tough KG veterans. He's a guy who's fought for the title 3 or 4 times. It was a big step up for Tanahara. Once again, he's taking another step. This is what I like to see from young fighters. I don't like to see guys who take a chance and then think, okay, so I took this one somewhat, you know, miserable chance. Now I can go ahead and fight 3 bums, and you know, you're gonna think.
Well, it's kind of like Jamal Charlo, and not to call Montiel a bum, but he was having good fights. You know, he had fought Derevyanchenko, who's a classy opponent, and then he steps up and fights Montiel, and then you're like, well, what are you doing? Why are you taking? I understand the phrase, you know, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or vice versa. But Jesus Christ, I mean, why would you take that big leap against Derevyanchenko and then take 2 steps back fighting Montiel and look like doo-doo for it? And now everybody's questioning if you're even legitimate at 160. But that's a whole nother story.
No, yeah, and I know what you're saying. Like I said, I mean, it was not. I know a lot of people.
You got to continue to make progress, like you said.
Yeah,
just
you know,
baby steps. You know.
I think the additive with the media and what they were trying to covet and convey was, let's praise Montiel for the fact he survived, that he had his moments, rather than punish Charlo for going in there against a guy who Munguia starched in 2 rounds. That was the problem. It was almost like they gave, I'm gonna say it again, boxing doesn't have participation trophies. Don't hand one to Montiel just because he got by. You know, at no point did I think he was going to win the fight. He had moments and stuff, but there's more concerns with Charlo. I still think his head's not in the game right now. I think the problem with him and his brother is starting to affect both of them. And I think it's going to be even a bigger problem if Jamel is not successful against Brian Castano. What happens to that fire that flames the Charlos?
Yeah, one minute they're on top of the world and the biggest thing in boxing, and then the next you're like, oh, what happened?
Well, I think that's the problem. I went back and I'm not trying to get off topic, but Jamel has made some discouraging comments about his brother Jamal, who's a little bit older, basing it that he's still got his O, but for how long? Because he hasn't looked good here and then here compared to what I've done. I'm the one that took the risk. I'm the one that took the chance. And to me, that's not the kind of thing that you really got to be focused on. So if Jamel loses to Brian Castano and goes 0-2 and his brother's still undefeated, that might be the end of the Charlo brothers. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got a huge
he'll
chip
self-destruct, man.
Absolutely.
Big time. But, so you wanted to jump back on the close out with the Tszyu fight again, right? You want to talk a little bit more about what's happening tonight? Is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah. What time are we at right now?
We're at like almost 6:50. So
okay. Real quick before we jump into that and stuff, have they made it official yet with the Joshua Usyk?
You know what? I saw that it was September.
That's what I thought.
I saw that, which I don't understand. I don't understand why you need that amount of time. These are heavyweights. It isn't like they have to make weight.
Oh, just to let you know real quick, the 24th, Helenius is getting his rematch against Konowski, and Joe Joyce is fighting against Carlos Takam.
And on the same card? Same card. Okay, well, yeah. So Konowski's getting the rematch against Helenius. I that's right, because Konowski hasn't fought since that TKO lost to Helenius. I mean, that was a major upset, but eventually if you're a Konowski and you just stand there and you take 15 punches to give 5, something's going to give. And on that night,
underrated guy too. He's an underrated guy. He's a guy who's had some bad outings and stuff, bad management, bad training,
injuries here and there.
He was back to Robert Helenius, the Nordic Warrior, that day, and he went up against a guy who's, let's be honest, he beat a guy who beat Arreola, who almost beat Andy Ruiz. Make that fight happen.
Yeah.
That'd be good. But let's go ahead and jump back to what we're saying. I keep jumping all over the place. So Usyk and Joshua, before we talk about the big fight tonight, I went back again and I watched Usyk's fight against Chisora. And I'm going to stick to what I've said before. He's not ready for this. He hasn't done enough work in the heavyweight division against guys to compare. You cannot compare Derek Chisora to Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua destroyed Derek Chisora. Yeah. This is not going to end well for Usyk. And it's unfortunate because Usyk doesn't possess the power. He's got this, but even his ring IQ looks suspect against a pressuring Chisora. He looks sloppy. He got hit a lot. He got cut. He was not a good outing for Usyk in any way, shape, or form. And I just don't think this is the right move at the right time. I don't know what the rush is, but
Yeah. I don't know, man. I know Usyk has the ability to outbox someone like a Joshua, but there's one thing the handicap he cannot overcome, and that's the size. He's not going to, they got him listed at 6'3". Usyk, he's a small 6'3".
Yeah.
He's not like a big imposing guy. What did his last fight? He came out at, what was it, 218, 219 or something along those lines? Yeah. AJ is going to be probably somewhere between 240 and 250, 6'6", and all of 6'6". That's the one thing. That's the one thing you just can't change. You can't change that natural size disadvantage that you have against AJ, and that's all the difference in the world.
It's definitely not going to go. So I actually had somebody talk to me today about that. They were talking about. They were saying, "Who do you like?" And I said, "Well, I like Usyk, but I mean, my gut and my reality tells me Joshua. And I'll be honest with you, I don't see this fight going 7 rounds. I think Usyk, Joshua knows Usyk can't take that pressure. You saw it in the Chisora fight against a guy that was gassed out in 2 rounds, but he was still catching Usyk with these bombs. And I'm like, dude, how does that happen? So a guy who's actually got more skill, better endurance, more punching power in Anthony Joshua, it's going to be target practice, for him. Against he's not going to feel that anything coming back at him is going to be dangerous. He's not going to have no respect for. It's no different than what happened with Munguia and Sarah Menza. There was a moment in the fight, and they said it, where Munguia had no respect for Sarah Menza because he knew there's nothing he could do to hurt him, so he did whatever he wanted. That's what's going to happen here.
So, you might be right. Yeah, you might be right.
So let's jump back into Tszyu real quick. Excited about that fight tonight?
Yeah, so that's it's about 7-8 hours from now, we'll be logging back in and turning on the computers and watching that on ESPN Plus. Tim Tszyu. You know, it's a bit of a letdown. I was really hoping to see him really do a number on Michael Zarafa. But there's one thing that Tszyu will not do is he will not take this kid, this late sub, lightly. He will not. He's way too professional for that. He's way too focused. And if you see it, like I said, it's almost an uncomfortable feeling I get watching him. It's like you're like, ooh, smile, Tim. Smile. It's not all that bad, but I guess it is that bad.
He's got his, Tim Tszyu is one of those fighters, like a lot of them stuff, I know how, in their personal thing, he's putting his game face on. Tim Tszyu understands that this is a game of brutality. You're not going in there to shake the guy's hand. You're not going in there for a chess match. You're not going in there to see who, play hot potato. It's punch to the face. Somebody's going to get knocked out. He understands this kid knows that this is the this is the Willy Wonka golden ticket. He beats Tim Tszyu. He puts himself on the map. Tim Tszyu goes back to square one. Tim Tszyu goes in there and does what he has to do, what he's going to do tonight, so which I see it being another stellar performance by Tszyu. Tszyu's not going to get a lot of credit for it because they're going to say it was a smaller guy, it was a late substitute. Yeah. No different than in the Mugia fight. They don't say it in other people's fight, but they kept repeating the fact that Sarah Menza was a late substitute, and it just drives me nuts, But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're going to, like I said, they'll. You said it. Charlo gets a pass. Certain fighters get passes. Certain fighters
here's what it is, bro. You can downplay his victories all you want, but eventually those victories will stack up enough points to get you to where you need to be and the person that you've been waiting for. So Charlo and all them could keep doing what they're doing. Let them go do what they're doing. Eventually they're going to have to face this kid. Eventually there's going to be nobody left in that division either willing to fight him or ready to fight him. So it's going to be this.
Yeah.
So
either that or they just gonna have to discard the belt, and then he just he fights whoever for that belt. And I that's a more realistic scenario to me than one of them, because what they're afraid of is the unknown. Part of them is saying, well, he's only fighting in his own home country. He's regional. He's the big fish in the small pond. But at the same time, they go, but then again, this kid does have that bloodline. This kid is the offspring of one of the most fiercest fighters boxing has seen.
One of the best one-punch knockout fighters of all time.
30. I mean, just to go back and look at what he did to fighters like quality champions like Miguel Angel Gonzalez, Zab Judah, Charmaine Mitchell.
And it wasn't that
Chavez.
That Costa Tszyu wasn't facing dangerous moments. I can remember we were in Fantasy Springs when he fought against Hurtado years ago, a guy who was actually a welterweight, full-fledged welterweight, number one contender, because Costa Tszyu's original opponent had dropped out. Long story short, Tszyu had to pick himself off the ground, Matt, twice in the first round. We thought it was over. So that resilience, that ability to be able to rejuvenate and come back and do what he did, because at any moment, that he can unleash that power. I know there's some rumors out there that after this Tim Tszyu fight, which I find this really, really absurd, that Kavaliauskas, the guy who fought against Crawford, who's now campaigning at that division and somehow got thrusted in the number 5 position, could be the next possible opponent for Tim Tszyu. And I'm thinking to myself, like, really? But,
Kaveh Lucas?
Yeah.
It's probably because I know that Top Rank has shown some interest in Tim Tszyu, and they made an offer to Tim Tszyu. He refused because he felt, hey, let me get the exposure and the experience I need fighting at home, which I respect. He wants to fight at home in his fans, and he made the comment, this might be the last time I fight in Australia, at least for a while. If he's successful tonight and then goes on, crosses the seas to fight in America, we might not see him. Australia might not see him for a while, but to me, that's an easy fight for Tim Tszyu. And once again, you'll have to say, okay, well, Terrence Crawford, it took this long for him to get Kaveh Lucas out. Kaveh Lucas dropped him, had him hurt. Dennis Hogan, same thing. Jeff Horn, same thing. I mean, that will be 2 common opponents that Terrence Crawford has with Tim Tszyu. And Tim Tszyu, we already know, as far as I'm concerned, he beat Jeff Horn a lot easier than Terrence Crawford did. And
Terrence Crawford's willing to step up to fight Manny Pacquiao at 100 at the division. Why not fight against the guy? But Terrence Crawford, that's not his MO. He's never going to go after the guys that are on the rise up. He's either going to get a guy that's on the tear going down, or a guy who's stepping up into new lands. But there was
Gamboa comes to mind.
Yeah, but there was something interesting I saw. I was watching this interview thing with Sebastian Fandora, and they were talking about future possibilities. And I love the fact that Fandora mentioned Tim Tszyu. He talked about, obviously, Jamel Charlo, Brian Castano, guys like that. And he brought up Tim Tszyu as a guys later on. Not to say, hey, I want Tim Tszyu, but these are the guys that I'm achieving, that my goal is to get up there and be considered with these guys. And I thought that was a good point. And that just shows why we had so much admiration for Sebastian Fundora, because he is not just a boxer. You'd be surprised how many boxers aren't boxing fans. Fundora is a boxing fan. You know what I'm saying? So he's already, I guarantee you, Fundora will be up tonight watching this fight because it has interest to him. Tim Tszyu's a guy, he's not at Tim Tszyu's level. He's down a little bit. Fundora's making some noise to get up there and stuff like this. Do I want to see that fight? If I was a non-Tim Tszyu fan, I would love to see it. Or a non-Fundora. I hate when I see two fighters that I really like. I'm going to pull with Tim Tszyu because I think Fundora is not ready for a guy like that. I mean, Tim Tszyu's got to worry about, he's got to worry about tonight. But a lot's going to be said in this. I think Tim Tszyu's really interested in the outcome of Castano and Charlo. If Charlo destroys Castano, then Tim Tszyu might say, hey, you know what? We need a little bit more work. If Castano goes in there and Charlo ekes out a decision, they might rethink it. If Castano wins, watch Tim Tszyu jump up to the thing and be ready for that shot.
Well, he would have gotten the shot against Patrick Teixeira, but because of COVID and the inability for them to travel, that's why they made that fight Castano versus Teixeira, because Castano's shot against Teixeira, that was Tim Tszyu's shot.
Yeah.
That was his shot. He was the number one guy in the WBO. That was his shot. But, you know, Castano did his thing. How did he end up winning that fight? Was it a stoppage or decision?
Who died?
Castano, when he beat Patrick Teixeira.
Castano, didn't he? I believe let me double check. I believe he stopped Teixeira late. He wanted to, 12-round decision. He won a unanimous decision.
Yeah, okay. I see. I don't think Teixeira would have gotten out of all 12 rounds against Tim Tszyu.
Well, there's a couple guys I know that have been thrown over towards Tszyu. I mean, there's another guy. You obviously got Sergio Garcia, who's 33-0, who's in the division right now. They're
talking about Sergio Garcia maybe fighting Sebastian Fundora. I read that today. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting fight, man, because I'm telling you now, I mean, you're talking about, that's the kind of fight you want to see, But I know they're talking about Korbov, the guy who we felt didn't beat Beefy over in Russia, as another one. I'm not really impressed with him.
Yeah.
I'm more impressed with what Liam Smith did, and I think he's a better opponent for Tim Tszyu, myself personally. But that's a whole other thing,
Yeah.
But that division's heating up. I mean, it really is. A lot of people, it doesn't look like it. It looks a little suspect when you look at guys like just Castano, Lubin, Kovalevskis, Garcia, but it's heating up. It's there,
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
You got some good guys in there and stuff. So it's only
for sure. So it looks like Eric the Red, he must be busy at the business, so he wasn't able to join us. So that's okay.
He was actually up in another part of Oregon today with his family doing something. I talked to him.
That's right, because his daughter, our niece turns her birthday's tomorrow, 7/7/7, and then Eric's is on Friday, 7/9. It's a lot of birthdays in the Eric's family this week. That's good.
So let's before we sign off, let's go ahead and give the information. So why don't you go and give all the information about tonight's fight with Tim Tszyu, and then I'll post it on our thing.
Yeah, that'll be it tonight on ESPN. I want to say the broadcast, I think it starts at about 2 a.m. Our time, which, Australia, I think right now is 16 or 17 hours ahead. So 2 a.m. our time is what? That's about 6 or 7 o'clock p.m. in Australia right now.
Also,
Wednesday.
Liam Wilson's fighting on the card tonight too, huh?
Yeah, the featherweight, the super featherweight.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, he's fighting on that card tonight as well. So it'll be an entertaining card, I think, from Australia. And they got, they had COVID. They went into COVID lockdown again because about 5 or 6 people got the sniffles, so they threw everything in lockdown again. Either way, that was Michael Zarafa. I mean, that was his. God, his prayers were answered because he had a built-in excuse. He didn't want to travel because of the quarantine situation or whatever. But whatever. He'll be watching from the sidelines, no doubt. Not in Newcastle, but he'll be there, and I'm sure he'll voice his he'll voice his opinion after the fight. And at this point, I don't think anybody really cares what he has to say anymore. You had your chance, Rafa. You barked and barked and barked, and then when it was time for you to step up, you just you lost your spine. Your spine disappeared. So
yeah, Zarafa's going to fall down that same wormhole that Anthony Mundine did. And not to say that Anthony Mundine has that same attitude, but the decisions that they made. I mean, obviously Mundine should have never fought that last fight. You saw what happened to him
against Zarafa.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just to me, there's got to be more penalties. There's got to be some type of punishment. Guys just can't do this to other fighters because you said it best, bro. Really going back and looking at it. What Teofimo Lopez and his team did to George Kambosos is the most underhanded thing you could do. When a fighter peaks, when they're at that ultimate level, mentally, spiritually, physically, and you take that away from them. You took that moment away because you weren't training correctly. People said that he wasn't on weight. Teofimo was not having, whatever was going on with Teofimo, this was the easy route out. So, shame on him and his team. Hopefully Kambosos can get himself back to that situation, but the same situation with Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu was peaked. Luckily, he got an opponent to come in. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Well, I've seen so many fights over the years where something has either happened with a situation like that or where a fighter clearly wins a fight. Two of them stick out. I mean, just
Joshua
vividly.
Franco.
That one. When Jeff Fennick beat Azuma Nelson for the first time, even though they called the fight a draw, he beat Azuma Nelson, right? Yeah. Hurt him, dropped him, beat him. Don King had his mind made up. They were going to do a rematch. And what happened? Then Fennick, I don't know what happened. The pressure, everything got to him, and he ended up getting stopped by Azuma Nelson. But the second fight should have never taken place. The same thing with Kovalev. When Kovalev fought Ward for the first time, Kovalev beat Ward. I'll say that to my dying breath. With my dying breath, he beat Ward. Ward knows it. Everybody on Team Ward knows he lost that fight. The second fight should have never happened. The spiral
same thing that happened to Barry McGuigan against Stevie Cruz. Barry McGuigan, they changed the event. They moved to Texas. They did all this stuff because McGuigan wouldn't sign with the promoters, and look what they did to McGuigan.
Yeah, McGuigan, and then like you said, Maloney. You said it, Maloney. I mean that fight that should be done. That story should be over. But once again, the story gets prolonged, and unfortunately, this story with Teofimo and Kambosos gets prolonged. It could have been over. And I think based on how they were looking, I think Kambosos might have pulled one of the biggest upsets in the last 10 years in boxing.
I didn't really watch until you told me, bro, but I went back and looked at some of the things. The guy was looking, even though I wasn't real high on his skills, he looked sharp as a knife. This guy was ready. So whatever he had was at its best.
He was peaked. He peaked. He was a racehorse. He would have won the Kentucky Derby. Now I don't know. We'll see. But
so what we'll do is we'll venture back on Sunday. Obviously, we're going to have hopefully some good things to talk about with Tim Tszyu. The fights tonight, you were talking about an ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus. Yeah, I think around like 2 in the morning our time. So I think log into your ESPN Plus.
At that time, I got to fight all the spiders. I got to go out here with my freaking tennis racket and hit all the freaking things so I don't walk into spiders.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get to bed early tonight so I can get at least a few hours sleep before I wake up, because I know once I wake up, watch that fight, I'm not gonna be able to fall back.
Hey, do me a favor though. Call me and make sure I wake up in time for.
I'll send you a text message. Yeah.
And then also on Sunday, let's touch more because we got a big fight right around the corner. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, number 3.
July 24th. Yeah, that's
right there, man.
That's 2.5 weeks away.
Yep. So
okay.
Heat up. Well, good show today,
brother.
Bro.
Good show. And Eric, if you're out there watching this, man, I hope you're having fun up there. And he went over to Bend, Oregon or something. So
I thought it was like Sydney, Oregon or something like that. I don't know.
So either way, so he's having a good time. So I'm sure we'll check in with him probably later tomorrow or something. But definitely, well, I'll see you tonight, bro. We'll chat as we're watching Tim Tszyu's fight.
Yeah, and I'm gonna post all the information about Tim Tszyu's fight. You hardcore boxing fans, tune in tonight, man. Give it the ratings.
Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, wake up early. If you're on the West Coast, go to bed late, or just go to bed early, and so you can get some.
Last time we saw a fight late, man, was the Monster against O'Near. I'm not saying this is going to be that level of fight, but still, you're going to see something special tonight in Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, brother.
So take us out, brother.
All right, for all of us Enter the Ring Live, thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Mighty Mike.
AJ Rage.
Everybody have a good rest of the weekend. We'll see you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I'll see you at 3 o'clock in the morning, brother, man.
Bye.
Bye.